Don't lose yourself trying to find yourself.
Raw. I'm on raw. I'm on, which I believe means, what does it mean? I already forgot. Dang, man, I forget my etymology quick.
Maybe something with one, something like that.
I know this, that.
You know what? I don't even want to talk about music. I just want to talk about old world buildings.
It's been a theme all day yesterday and today.
And I watched more last night.
My man's going in. Houston Ensemble here with Duke Diamonds.
To the stage.
Double D's.
Face reveal coming up. The face reveal will come around the 25, 30-minute mark, so stay tuned. You don't even know who this is. This gentleman's from the deepest depths of the Illuminati. We good? Yeah, it's in there.
So welcome.
Welcome, fellas.
Thanks for doing the podcast with us today. We know Duke from performing music, creating music. I'm going to let him obviously talk more about that. But we wanted to bring him on the podcast today, talk about the future music projects that we're doing, talk about all the music that's coming out, all the music that we perform in Houston, the music that's on all the listening platforms, the process that's gone into that. So, Duke, maybe you can kind of let people know what you're about, who you are, a little intro.
Absolutely.
We can get more into it.
Thank you. First of all, you guys are great guys to work with. You know, Duke Diamonds, producer for United Kins. And we've been developing and flourishing music that I've written from song elements, from inspirations. And these inspirations and elements, right now, we have like this project. It's not it is. The project is called GLOPElife. And that's with some of the music that you've been hearing around town. We've done events at like Off the Record, shout out to Off the Record, Post, The Flat. These are iconic locations that are helping provide the foundation for that experience that we're showing our community around Houston. And so GLOPElife, globally dope, something that is interesting, something that is culturally aware, but it is something that is applicable anywhere. So it's globally dope. And so that's the theme of the project. We've all been working on it collectively. And yeah, I'm here today just to kind of talk a little bit about that. But bigger picture, just talk about how our lives interact across this music and frequencies.
Mm-hmm. And we've got the name United Kins. Obviously, you can probably get a little meaning from that just by thinking about it. But from your perspective, where United Kins come from and what does it mean?
You know, I've always been on this inspiration of inclusivity, you know, across not just like bodies of people, but like ways and cultures. And, you know, we're all connected, you know, and I like that connective tissue of folks. And so the inspiration around the word United Kins is exactly that. We're all united kinfolk in a manner that is relative to how you receive that person. And in this capacity, we're talking about through our sonic realm and then connecting us that way. And so that's, you know, that's the initial kind of reasoning behind United Kins.
And on top of that, the music also reflects that, because one cool thing about the music is that it's not limited to one particular sound or one particular genre. It spans a lot of genres. It spans a little country. It spans a little Tejano-ish. it spans R&B, it spans rock. It's the full spectrum. So I do feel like the United King's music is definitely reflective of the name as well. And that was a cool thing, especially recording the music early on, where I'm so used to playing whatever I play on the daily, but then there were some tunes where I was like, I need to go into my memory and think like, how does this sort of like Latin Tejano type bass line go? Or what's that sound? And, sticking to that. And especially for music like that, it's not necessarily about chopping out the entire time. It's like you got to play the groove for sure, so that it sounds the way it's supposed to sound.
Yeah, you've definitely in our studio time. Shout out to Lucky Run. It's where we did a lot of our work. We continue to, but definitely when I say organic, when it comes to the elements that you just mentioned, it's true, right? It's nothing. It's not like, ooh, we want to set out to do an Americana. It's just, oh, that's what it sounds like, or like in one of our songs, Rain Come Down, where it kind of has this maze-ish feel to it, and then it goes into this Brazilian, chorus. It's just, it's just kind of like that's what it felt like. That's what that's what you see, and that's what you see through other elements, and it just gets transcribed. And I know every time I get in the studio with you guys, I like, okay, bass and drum is so important, right? So a lot of times you all have defined, just because it's acoustical guitar may make it feel Americana, but that's just because of the melody. It got defined by that, just by us all taking it to the next step. And that's been always the enjoyable, process that we've experienced so far.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I forgot to mention too, like there are elements of like EDM, electronic music, and also when we perform, sometimes we'll have a DJ with us, interspersing. I don't know if that's a word, putting in elements from the song that were specifically created, mixed, produced a little bit by the DJ. So that's another cool aspect. And one thing that we did recently was do a performance at Post Houston, and that's a big space in Houston that used to be a gigantic post office that they've turned into an event center with shops and stages and eating and all this cool stuff. And we did it on May 4th, and we did a Star Wars show at the Art Club, and that was very cool, and a lot of people took interest in it. And that was us taking the themes from Star Wars, playing the themes, but then expounding upon them in our own way, along with a DJ, along with some really cool graphics. And everybody who saw it said it was sweet. And people have asked me, like I mentioned, can we recreate that?
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of different things going on with that.
Definitely. And that's that, the enjoyment there is like, it wasn't limited to being like a tribute
Right.
event band, even though you are paying homage to May the 4th and that whole, culture, that whole Star Wars culture. But, we took it to a space of our realms of comfortability, where we had Armoff on lead guitar, bringing in that element of rock Americana. And then we took elements of that Latin flavor on how we approached some of those classic Star Wars theme songs. And so we still followed our same rubric, I guess, that we're now becoming like kind of known for from a United Kins, musicality standpoint, and applying it to Star Wars. That was just so much fun.
It really was.
What is frequency? What is the purpose of music in this realm? What are we doing with it? What does it mean to you?
So what happens is, music is beautiful and it's like skin deep. And so when you think about like when they say, oh man, that person is just a, beauty of skin deep, but what's the soul of that person? Like how is that person really, what's the soul of that person, right? what's their makeup? And so when we start talking about peeling back the onion on that, that's when we start talking about the intentionality, the real intentionality of our music, how our music is aligned with frequencies that are intentional around the elements that make us us. Some folks get into the chakras, but however element that you find the discipline around, when we're looking at our music, we're looking at music that's going to help heal, help motivate, and help move you. And we follow these frequencies to ensure that, and what you're hearing on the surface level is the melody and harmony of those.
Mm-hmm. And you have a song entitled Frequency of Life, one of the first songs we recorded. And I really that's definitely one of my favorites, especially from a bass perspective, but also especially just from a vibe perspective. Where did the Frequency of Life idea come from for that song specifically?
Yeah, thank you for letting us get into that, because I've kind of kicked it off. So we walk through this life, trying to make it right. And, we take on different fights and we take on various challenges in our lives. And, sometimes people hear about something over there and it didn't resonate with you. You heard about it. It's like you can take, you don't have to drink from the water to know how it tastes if someone comes back from the village and tells you how it tastes, right? But sometimes you have to experience it in order to appreciate it, right? So anything can happen to anybody, positive or negative, right? And so, but it's not until it happens to you, then now you can see, right? And so there are all elements that travel our realm, our space, just like radio waves. To answer your question, a radio, dial a knob, it's playing all stations. It depends on your tuner that you go to. So frequency of life is like when those intersection of actions and events that happen in your life cross paths with you, because now you understand, right? And it's now real to you now, right? And so in that song, it talks about that and that personal appreciation of events when it happens to you, happens to thee. And so that's the crux of the song Frequency of Life.
Mm. Yeah, and definitely. I remember when we were recording it, there was something about walking. Well, walking is literally part of lyrics, but also in the bass line and in the drums. It's like you are walking through this city. You hear that constant rhythm that just just going through.
Right. And that's just like, and to your point, that was intentionality there. So, the point of view of you, first person, going through life, experiencing things, and and one day you heard about it over there, it wasn't your care. Now it happens to thee, now you see frequency of life. And so that's like and it's a very simple song. It's not a lot of words, you know what I mean? And it's meant to send a message of that and give that, that personalization for the listener, and something that they can vibe to without being preachy, and without trying to be a sermon or anything like that. And it's really a frankness.
And also it's like the song is realistic, maybe. It almost, rather than defining it as like happy or upbeat or something like that, I immediately wanted to think like realistic about life, and there's almost like a haunting element to it. It's not dark and scary, but there's like this shimmer of haunting. But I think that's also important because that kind of, when you really start to think about life,
Yeah, man. Well,
going through life, it has that in it.
Life, what I mean? Like there's a morality, there's a mortality of us in this space that we're in, and and that's just part of it. When you can walk out any day, you can, and you can also walk out any day and go straight to a hospital and have a newborn baby, or you can go get married. You know what I mean? Like this, and I do find it sometimes that people, when they hear our music, like Frequency of Life, or or other titles like Aces of Diamonds, it feels like that, like serious.
My bad. Aces and Diamonds is haunting.
Gotcha.
I was applying everything to
That
Aces
you
and Diamonds.
even when you were
Frequency
saying
of
the
Life is
bass
happy.
line, you were saying the bass line, I was like, I'm gonna go with it, but I'm not gonna correct the bass guy that but yes, Aces and Diamonds, D minor, yep. Mm-hmm.
I think it's because I was literally just listening to Aces and
Gotcha.
Diamonds in the car.
Mm,
But Frequency, okay, let's rescind everything I just said.
okay.
Frequency of Life is very happy
Yeah.
and good. Aces and Diamonds is about walking through. There's an
Right.
element about walking through life
Absolutely. We
that
walk through this life
has
trying
this
to make
haunting
it right.
element.
Absolutely. It because when you're walking through life, that, to segue into Aces and Diamonds, I'm so proud of that because it's just taken on its own personality, from a standpoint of world is full of jokers, broken hearts, diamonds full of, never sparked. So it's like it has this. I like to sometimes juxtapose casino games, specifically like blackjack and craps in my writing style, and so that one definitely uses a lot of Texas Hold'em type references into it, and it kind of gets into that and uses that in our own reality. Like life is full of diamonds and people broken hearts. Jokers. And so it's like if you look at a card, a deck of cards, the face cards, there are elements in our lives that kind of resemble that particular face card, and Aces and Diamonds kind of gets into that in a very bluesy manner, and then you guys killed it, from a standpoint of the vibe of the song.
Yeah, that one that's definitely one of the earliest ones that we recorded.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe
The
first day.
I think that was first day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there's a huge catalog at this point.
Yeah. So GLOPElife we talked about, which and then you have like the Frequency of Life project that we talked about, and then when Chad was talking about like the Americana type stuff is more like in the Magnolia project, and so that's so those are like our catalog of work that we're hoping to be performing for you all in this region and internationally.
At the Houston Ensemble, we're all about frequencies. Like we were talking about earlier, and we can get into it. It's our podcast. I mean, we had a history of getting into nitty-gritty stuff.
Nasty history.
The nasty
Don't
history
say
of
that.
freaks.
Don't say it like that. No, but we had here's the deal. Like, for example, we had some guests. We at this point have had at least, I want to say, like 10 guests that have been on Joe Rogan's podcast, for example.
No big deal.
Yeah, but
So y'all have had guests that's gone off to be
like
on-
literally from our podcast to his, like
Okay,
the next hour.
Joe, hit me.
We got invited.
Yeah.
One of the guys who's
Randall,
a geologist, a history guy.
Hook
Randall
up, yeah.
Carlson.
tell him that plug our podcast. Tell him to go watch that.
Yeah, we have an episode with the great Randall Carlson, who's just a super famous history guy, but it's about discerning what happened with cataclysms back in the day where we don't have the right information right now, and so he's part of people that are studying to get it right or to have a better understanding, which
Okay.
goes against the grain, even though it's not weird. It's just when the science is decided upon, the other scientists are like, oh, we can't do this. So that's his thing, but he's become famous because of this. And
Because it's about money. It's about
Exactly.
grants and money.
and he's cool because he's so down to earth and just a total nerd
Yeah.
in a great way. And I was talking to him on the phone maybe the night before, 2 days before we were having our podcast with him, maybe a week before, whatever. And he was like, hey, I'm trying to go down to this place in Texas and do a little like research stuff. And I'm trying to get Joe Rogan to
It's
come.
like these caves off of Austin.
That's right. Yeah. I'm trying to get Joe to come. I'm trying to get, I think he even said Graham Hancock to come. And he's like, do you guys want to come along and go with us? And I was like, yeah. Now, it never happened, but they also just never ended up doing it. So I don't feel so bad about it. But we really have had some interesting people. And we had this doctor on who has a private practice on Kirby called Breathe MD. Her name is Mary Tally Bowden. It's right across from Whole Foods on Kirby, but across the street. And she became really famous during the year of 2021 because she specializes in ear, nose, and throat type stuff.
Don't say any crazy words.
Right. And she's an outspoken voice, was on all the news articles, and it had a weird thing where she was fired by text from
Big old.
the main hospital here.
Yeah. Don't
Top
don't
tier
say-
hospital
don't-
here. And so we had her on. She was really cool. And then just 2 weeks ago, Joe had her on to talk about everything. And
But we're not protected because he's got millions of people coming in. Whatever
It's a revenue
platform he's
source.
on, he's doing good for that platform. You dig? So when we have him on, we get hit.
we hurt the platform.
We get.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We do not hurt the
Well, and I'm not even. Look, long story short, we want to talk about what we want to talk about,
Right.
but we want to do it in a way that's multi-layered, perhaps sophisticated, perhaps, but also tying into the music because
Yeah.
it is tied to the music.
Well, for sure.
Because it's about frequency.
Yeah. And so like when I was talking earlier about the intentionality of like, our music, intentionality of the sets that we have and how we, come in and out of songs and whatnot, like those keys, so a key has a frequency range, right? Yeah. So if you think about something that makes you feel a certain way or identifies with you a certain way or have this certain emotional memory to it, and sensory wise, you feel it in your bones a certain way. And that probably lines up with a particular area, chakra for yourself. And that chakra frequency ranges within a particular key. So when we're talking about orchestrating our music in a manner that's going to deliver a message, but also, move forward and move us as a united kinfolk forward, that's how we're, laying out our music from our keys, because it's the melody, the harmonies, the keys, the frequency, and the frequency is the bedrock of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes when I want to just move forward in my day, the frequency of my life, I may want to be in, this particular frequency range and have that kind of acoustical environmental music playing in the background because it's sensory for me. Mm-hmm. That's the frequency of my life. So, we all have our own individual aspects to that. And so that's what we're doing collectively with the United Kins music as relates to frequency, right? And it's very intentional.
And the cool thing too is that the band itself, like the full band, is all people that are on the same frequency.
Man, it was so wonderful when we first met and really first you meet and then you actually go into a space of creativity and you start talking after my first 4 words of saying what the kind of the consciousness behind it, the intentionality behind the music. And it was, you don't have to overly express or overly explain or overly try to get someone to get it. No, it's like not only do I already get it, but I'm already on that, and that's cool. And I'm glad that you are too, because and that's that United Kins.
Yep.
That's not the that's it right there. You know what I mean? And so everybody who has worked with us from a core standpoint, and as we continue to just kind of grow our connective fibers together, all was already on it already, and it made it an enjoyable, like kind of easier way. You don't have to like try to explain this type of approach to music design, and you're coming from a baseline that someone just kind of thinks it's folksy or thinks it's magic or something. You know, our bodies are 80% water. You put a bowl of water on a table. You hit a chime. You see the bell. You see the wave do a certain thing. You change it, the waves do a certain thing. So I mean, so you just and there's medicines that have been trained and taught for Eastern medicine forever. So it's not. We're just kind of. I think one of the goals of United Kins as well is to kind of take it and make it mainstream. In an intentional pop, and there has been some music that's been intentional in another capacity to do the same thing. So we're doing the same thing for the United Kins of the world.
Totally agreed. And to speak on that a little bit more, I am a member at this infrared sauna place, and it's a Perspire Sauna Studio in the Heights. And I went there when I was sick one time just because my mom was like, infrared sauna, go hit it while you're sick. And I met the owners, and now I'm great friends with the owners, and they're exactly on my frequency. And she talks about that all the time. And also crazy thing is she looks exactly like my mom. So it's
Crazy.
like while I'm talking to her, I'm like, feel like I'm talking to my mom, but she's also on the exact same frequency. And she was just telling me the other day, she's bringing in people to the sauna to do these sort of energy body healings that she's done herself and has had great success from. And then there's another woman who she brings in who has this full body scan that I've not done this yet, but I plan on doing it. And it scans your body, something like maybe you're holding something metal and it does an electric current, gets these scans from you, and it'll tell you what you're deficient in or what's going on in your body. Like, are you deficient in vitamin D? Are you deficient in, I don't know, other stuff? Are you sick or something like that? But what frequency do you need to alleviate whatever's going on in your body? And so it will also map out or tell you what frequencies you need to hear or be surrounded by in order to do maintenance on your body.
How many
Sounds
notes?
good.
How many notes on a scale?
In the tempered scale, there's 12 notes, but
Right. Let's go with 7.
right.
Right. The main notes.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Right. And so there are 7 chakra zones in our body.
I don't know if I've ever put 2 and 2 together
Right.
for
And
exactly
so-
that. Yeah.
Right. And so when we need to get retuned, just like a guitar, just like an instrument, specifically a guitar, on the main, right? You're tuning your body, right? So when you're just talking about that experience of the deficiency, you're just a little out of tune there, right? And you just need to tighten up on that string, right? To use that that metaphor, and that's exactly what we're doing in our music. And that is, from a mass standpoint. And then we use platforms like this to talk more about the intentionality behind the music that is being put out on the platforms from a mass standpoint. So now you can kind of understand and connect the dots when you're talking about aces and diamonds and what that's doing, and it's D minor, and then what's behind that frequency, and then where we're trying, because at the end of that story, it's aspirational. there's okay, now let me pull you up, right? Let me level you out. Let me find that delta and find that delta in yourself, and let's close that gap. And that's also on the back end of Aces and Diamonds.
So we tuning society.
Returning society.
And that's why some music can tune society in a negative way.
Come on.
And we were talking about this yesterday. We don't have to go into it like crazy, but also that from this conversation made me think a little bit differently about when we talk about the standard tuning of instruments at 440 hertz, how that is slightly askew from the natural progression of the I feel like I was blanking on these words yesterday, and I'm going to try and find them today, where it's you're tuning up in pattern at a natural progression naturally, but right now, because our tuning is standardized at 440 hertz, that's slightly askew from the natural progression of tuning. And a lot of music today, a lot of mainstream pop music has a sort of underlying negative energy to it. Actually, either it's clearly negative, a lot of it's clearly negative, like most media that we intake. That seems to be tuning society to something negative. And I think that doesn't mean that all music has to be happy or upbeat or anything like that or motivating, but there is an intent behind the music, and I think that that's what matters as well. And then maybe it also literally matters, technically speaking, when it comes to the actual frequencies. And actually, the first video that Armin and I ever recorded at our house,
Okay.
when we moved in together, we were putting our studio together in the house. We had some gig and we were gonna like make an ad for it or something. And that was the first video we recorded there. We were like, it was I Can't Help It by Michael Jackson, upright bass and guitar. And we were like, ooh, it'd be fun. Let's tune our instruments in 432. And so make them resonate in 432. And we definitely want to do more of that.
Yeah. Yeah,
and,
I think.
And some of the lyrics in some of the song, all the 90s hurt. What's the name of that one?
Out in the Wild.
Out in the Wild. Talk about it in the music.
Yeah. So like Out in the Wild, is on that same frequency of life, space, and it gets once again, it gets right into it, right? It talks, when you're out in, don't lose yourself trying to find yourself, right? And it's okay to be out in the wild, but don't be of the wild, right? And so
Pastor.
And so in that piece that you was just talking about, and it's like looking at yourself and knowing that we're in constant change, we're in constant dynamic motion.
The only thing that is constant is change.
That's exactly. And your vibe, manages your will, and how you see yourself in the world and not being of the world is really what that Out in the Wild song hits on. In that bridge talks about it. And that's on Out in the Wild, out on all platforms now.
Do you ever have days, because I do, where I wake up and there's no clear reason why, but I'm not in a good vibe? Does that ever happen to you? It's not like it's not necessarily I'm like depressed or something, but I wake up and I'm like, I don't have the same exuberant vibe
right.
that I had yesterday.
I sometimes wake up with burden. And maybe in that burden, maybe described like what you're saying is exuberant vibe dampening, right? And some, and sometimes when I wake up with just immediate burden, like first of all, you just woke up, like what is going on? Like,
Yeah.
What is the why? I do a rewind. therapeutically, what I've done is I've tried to just say, okay, well, unconsciously, there's a bunch of stuff that consciously I need to be doing. Let's write it down. Let's at least make the list.
I'm a huge list proponent.
And it's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of time it takes me to realize, oh, let me just write it down. Let me just write the list down. However long, whether it took me 2 cups of coffee, whether it took me, I got on a conference call, wasn't the happiest camper on the call or whatever, and I finally realized, let me just break down what needs to happen, and I usually relieve that, right? And that's again, and out in the wild, your vibe changes 90s, and so yeah. So I identify with that.
One thing that I've definitely developed is that I'll be going to bed a lot. Happened last night. Probably most nights, but I'll be going to bed and then I'll start to think about all these things that either I need to do or things that are bothering me or something like that. But I've gotten very good at telling myself, you got to stop right now and you'll deal with that when you wake up, because now is not the time to do it. And a lot of those things too is I've really become big on creating checklists for things that I need to do, especially if there are a lot of little things. Because if I try and just keep them all in my head,
it's too much.
It's too much. And then I'll forget something again. And actually makes doing everything a lot easier because, like, write an email, boom, done. Text this person, done.
I was just looking up.
Send a payment, done.
Just looking up references to frequencies in popular music throughout the decades.
What'd you come back with?
Well, the list kind of sucked, so I'll just get into it myself.
Gotcha.
Like, for example, artists like Erykah Badu. If we're in the soul realm, R&B soul, she's a big frequencies lady. Like, she'll start concerts where first of all, she'll light up some sage, or some incense. She'll start things like that. She'll even have like bowls and stuff, And then there's in the hardcore or more like rock realm, there's Tool. They're big time into frequencies. They have a song called Third Eye, pretty sure. It's about opening the third eye and unlocking frequencies of the universe and stuff like that. So now other artists in the rap realm have talked about frequencies, in particular the 808, which is that subtone frequency, and the psychological effects of the 808, how it's kind of like it brings out aggression and hypersexuality, perhaps, just base instinctual primal urges. And so what we're talking about when we're talking about music and frequency, just so the audience is aware, we're kind of even literally talking about mind control on a mathematical level, not on like a BuzzFeed level. We're talking about it like exact science of what sounds do to the human mind. And there's an exact science to why D minor sounds sad and C major sounds happy. Now, I don't believe that the science itself is enough to explain the phenomenology of music and the experience of music and what it means spiritually on a grander level. But with the science, what can be done by people if they choose to, and I believe they do, is a certain level of steering society consciously. Especially when you have money to be made and there's an industry behind you, you want the minds to be locked and in that consumerist framework. So you're going to do things that feed into that. And that's why it's not surprising that a lot of the lobbying to private prisons is done by record labels who have a big interest in the private prison enterprise. And it just so happens that they're pushing music that's specifically about topics of drugs and crime and things of that nature. So I look at these things and I see it all as being connected. And we can forensically look at that.
For sure. Well, there's You know, there's a full spectrum, right? And there are many emotions. You just hit on what the 808, has been characterized, detuned to emotion to hit on, right? But there's equalizer even in that same realm, within that same music, right? So you have had folks who juxtapose that element of sound, but then tell a story and deliver a story. So it takes that person that may have that emotion, but then by the end of the song, bring them out.
Right.
Or it may talk to them where they are, right? Because of where they are in their lives, but then the content, the words of the story may deliver another message to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like reaching a person where they are, and bring on. Now you can reach a person where they are and keep them there, and maybe that's the story that they want to tell for that particular song or element. The songs or elements that we use, like for instance, D minor is one of Chad's favorite keys. But if you tell me that Chad is a guy who walks around sad all the time, I'll tell you to screw off. If you told me that he's not one of the most diplomatic type personalities that tries to find the commonality of everybody to move things forward, that's not necessarily what would be a D minor guy who loves D minor, right? Like in Aces and Diamonds. So in that storyline talks about moving you up, pulling you out. So to bring it back to United Kins, we understand the whole spectrum. We understand the intentionality of all types of music. And we are curating a sound that is to, kind of give you an option and give you another wavelength and let you know that, hey, we're here to tell that story in a manner that's going to be reflective of, I'm not going to sit up here and say positive. I'm not going to sit up here and say negative. I'm going to say more like what Chad said earlier, reality. And that's just how life is. You wake up, sucked up, fucked up, whatever, you know what I mean? Okay, now figure it out. But you may bump your head, you may do some dumb things in that moment when you're still trying to figure it out. And you finally do figure it out by 2:00. But you may have done some things that are, got some consequences in them. You still learned from it. Hey, so, I just wanted to kind of really bring it to some, simple math, like what you just said. There is some mathematics behind this music. There is some mathematics around all the music. We start talking about frequencies. And we're looking at the mathematics to provide an equation for people to come together in a manner, or just to kind of like take you for where you are and give you a story and go about your business.
And also, I really enjoyed, and I meant to mention it earlier, but at one of the shows off the record, we had a sound bath session before the actual show took place, and everybody in the band took part in the sound bath, and I really enjoyed that. And I don't think I'd ever done one like that before, and I was like, I really
in a
want
space.
Yeah, in a
that
space
is
that was set.
non-traditional to where you would take that on.
Mm-hmm.
And we're big on, not to cut you off, but we're big on tuning the room, like what you mentioned, mentioned about, Erykah Badu and some of those greats. We're big on that. We're gonna tune the room to the root chakra. You know what I mean? We're gonna baseline it, and then we're gonna groove into it. And unless we told you what we're doing, you wouldn't even know it. But you're gonna feel great at the end of our show, like everybody talks about. And so that's the point there.
We're gonna do an A/B. We're gonna do a show where we tell them, and then we're gonna do a show where we don't tell them. We're gonna experiment.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yeah, I definitely felt it when we did it that day. But
you can feel it in your balls.
Yeah. Yep.
That's 100%.
She's like, cough.
Look away.
Yeah,
We're all coughing in there.
that's crazy.
No, but it's literally making like what you said earlier, and I just watched one of these videos the other day that made me be like, that's why I have to do this more. When you hit the tuning fork over the water, put it in the water, and then you see the water rippling and vibrating at that frequency, that's happening in your body. Right. Whether all the liquid in your body, it's
80%
like
water, right? 70, 80.
And that was the thing that made me be like, oh shit, that's why I need to do that more. and get that
I want to do
frequency.
that thing that you do at that place in the Heights. I want to go there and try that out.
I do too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
I've done the Sound Bowl, and when I tell you all that I'll go through an hour session, Sophiana actually is one of the persons who connected the dots of chakra elements for me personally to it all. Because just a little quick sidebar, I, was like, man, I can't listen to words while I'm working. So then I was like, I want instrumentals, right? And then I want certain types of instrumentals. So I started just studying, okay, well, this song is in this key. Well, okay, well, this key, well, let me just listen to these frequencies and just make a playlist of that. So that was me, right? But anyway, so that was me already, not knowing that, the root chakra is this frequency range and this, I never connected that together for years. One day talking to a buddy who was living at the Heights at the time, and he was into it. He's a sound healer, right? He educated me. I got more education. And I can go through a sound bowl session for 30 minutes and feel minimal. He'll hit a certain bowl that has a certain frequency to it and resonates, and it literally feels like, just like you saw the emotion of a string, in the feeling of your body, literally like, oh, that is the key that needs to get tuned for me.
Mm.
And I walk and I totally get better sounding. I sound better. Me personally, my body sounds better. So yeah.
Yeah. And because we're all vibrating all the time.
Always.
It's like you gotta check the vibrations. And when you're in a place too where you're like, ooh, this vibration's weird. And everything.
It's weird.
Yeah.
The vibe is a real thing. You hear about it. Hip hop has popularized the word vibe. Hip hop, righteous music, and it's talked about vibe and vibration. Tribe Called Quest. And I can't even. So many. But they were one of the first for in my generation coming up that really put it in music and put the words in music that became popular. Like, man, you're on a vibe. This and that. And you start understanding your vibe changes your will. You know what I mean? It's like, It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like that's also kind of why, like, a performance technique that I had heard when I was in school, when you're about to go do like a solo or something and you're nervous or something, they would say to just smile in the back before you're going to play. Like, it's going to be weird, obviously, because you're going to be just smiling by yourself,
right.
full force. But I tried to do it every time that I had a recital. And you just got to hold that smile, but that makes your brain think that you are smiling. And that's a little different than what we're talking about, but it's also related to it because it's like changing your energy, changing what your brain's thinking, which I think also changes your perception a little bit, and just kind of feeding the vibrations is always a good thing. And obviously, if you're consuming negativity all the time, that's another thing. That's why a lot of the social stuff, it's like some of it's very addicting, but also so much of it is like the most soul wrenching things in the world, and just soul destroying. I'm like, oh my God, literally shut up.
Right.
But I'm also like addicted to watching it sometimes.
Well, notice that we keep talking about a couple of things when it comes to frequency. We also bring up the mind. We're bringing up psychology. So what we're talking about is when it comes down to it, is that all of these things, it boils down to our behavior and our interaction with it. So to control music, or to be able to have this kind of control with music as a musician, is to understand that it affects people's moods, right? So like one artist who's big on, a popular artist who's big on letting people interpret things, is Billie Eilish. Like, she'll often talk about in interviews that I don't want to give everything away. I don't want to necessarily tell people exactly what I'm talking about in my songs. Even though, like, you know, you read the lyrics, it's like you can tell what it's talking about, and sometimes it is pretty dark stuff.
Mhm.
She's not necessarily like a happy aesthetic person, like her music. Which I and maybe we can talk about this more about the business side of things as I'm learning, and I'm taking this course right now that I paid for. It's like a music marketing course. And one thing that they point out a lot is that any figure, image, public figure, artist, whatever, in order to keep up like the allure, there needs not you can't explain everything about that entity. Like once you explained everything about the entity, there's nothing else to come back to. So one thing you're always gonna do is leave an element of interpretation, which is so important in music because that's the creative hook of it. What do you think about that, Remy?
Well, I think that a few minutes ago, I was like, we talked about reality, and we talked about, well, mad, sad, scale, D minor, whatever, right? And so it's a scenario where we're not gonna tell you or show you exactly what outcome you want to have, you need to have. Some people are going to interpret it one way based on how their own personal matrix of life is, right? And so the elements of United Kins, and the reason why this is a great segue, why we perform oftentimes in the mask, is because we are disassociating our personal selves so that you don't get in the way of interpreting however you want to appreciate the music. You're not going to get stuck with, I want to listen to just this person. No, this person is delivering a message. Don't get caught up with the messenger, right? And so interpret how you want to interpret. So this is the reason why we perform in the mask. It's for that very same reason why you just asked about having an air or a sense of mysticism or of unpacking, of non-revealing. And it allows you to now then soak more into the actual content of the music and allow you to let your own mind, absorb it and let your own mind and own oneself tell the story how you reflect on it. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, it really, the idea of if you really look at every artist under this lens of like what exactly is being sold with this artist, like for example, we can take The Weeknd, right? The aesthetic of The Weeknd is like that guy that is like kind of like a smooth criminal, maybe. Right? He's kind of a bad boy, perhaps, but he's a lover, and he's a fighter, and he's a bad boy, whatever. And
vampire too. After that Super Bowl happened,
maybe
I
got
just feel like
little vampire vibe.
I feel like
there
just
too,
vampire vibes,
right? So
which
now
I don't know what that means, but yeah.
So what's the persona of, and then like what's the persona of? Let's take another artist. Pick one. Let's look
Usher.
at Usher.
Usher.
Usher. Also, I would say lover boy, romantic. He's the lover. He's not the fighter. He's not even the bad boy. He's more like the romantic, right? I would say. Now let's take a female. Last one.
Dua Lipa.
Dua Lipa. What would you say is Dua Lipa's avatar? What is it?
Interesting.
What is it?
I don't know. What would you all say?
I
have a, I kind of have like the new Gwen Stefani. So I always feel like, Orange County, type of a vibe, so whatever that means.
You think Dua has the Orange County vibe?
Southern
Okay.
California type.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's not like
There's not too much vibe, honestly.
No.
Actually, now that I think about it, it's kind of.
Well, she's kind of like. I would say she has like the more not even classy, but she's not like Fergie, but she's not Fergalicious, but she's also not Madonna, but she's also not like Miley Cyrus.
She doesn't have too much
So
edge.
it sounds like she's kind of original then.
I think so. You could almost say that she's got like more of a model-esque, like clean model-esque.
Yeah, and so that's why I was thinking about when I mentioned the other artist that just kind of remind me of, because very model-esque, super quality vocals. I love a pop artist that really is talented and not, bugle rap, just for you. No, but no, you can turn off all effects, all engineering, and the person can really sing.
Yeah.
And a lot of those artists that you mentioned, whether it's Usher, whether it's some of the other artists that you mentioned, when you think about them like that, at the end of the day, their talent is still their talent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And packaging, like what you're talking about, and the marketing, what you're talking about, that all comes just out of the rawness of the talent. And it organically creates itself. You know what I mean? Like the music can stand on its own, and based on the thinking heads and bean counters behind that person's music and brand, you're just basically like farming it within what they do when they just get up and walk out of bed. Dua Lipa, she just beautiful and can sing. Now everything else is just packaging. But at the end of the day, that's what you got. And that's why we're talking about it right now.
Would you say that I tend to agree with one aspect of what I've been reading up on, which is that the stronger or the harder that the entity goes into this persona, the richer the folklore becomes about it.
Absolutely.
So, like, if you're only like tiptoeing in it, it's like you're not really feeding that plant of whatever thought, idea, concept, ideology you're going for. But if you're steeped into it visually, aesthetically, verbally, how you're acting, how you show up publicly, and everything in between, everything that's ever covered about you, every picture ever taken, every video has that theme about it. Then what happens is people start creating, wikis about you. They start having forums about you. They start having rumors about you and things of that nature. So, like, maybe Dua Lipa's not going hard enough. Maybe she's shy.
Well, it's an evolution of artist development, and I think on the earlier realm of her career from that standpoint, or there's multiple phases of pop realm. She may have been out. I don't know her Wikipedia on her, but I know that we're talking about her.
Yeah,
right. So that's the bottom line. And so and you can probably think of a couple of songs and be like, pretty good song. You know what I mean? And then, you look at her in one realm, and I think like she has a song that has this noir type, classic type, and then, but you think in your mind, I wouldn't have thought that, right? I love that. I love that juxtaposition of like what you think and what you thought and what it is, or what you're being shown to. And that's that revealing. That's that unpacking. That's that, what you're saying, that mysticism that creates for that nostalgia for that artist.
See, but even like if I take, for example, if I think of Lady Gaga, very strong aura about Lady Gaga. There's like some sort of dark, a little bit. I
think circus,
little dark, little
macabre. You're talking about a Manhattan chick, right? So you're talking about, a chick that grew up and loving home. You step outside.
Yeah. You're
outside, man. And then you jumping on the subway, hopping on your cabbie, so there's going to be
she has some straight up, think about Doja Cat, how she switched up, because she used to be disco pop.
Mm.
You know, next thing you know, you have a song where she's like walking on walls.
Yeah.
She does kind of seem like a little hairless Egyptian cat.
Yeah, she went into that hairless Egyptian cat Sphinx persona hardcore. She went hard into it.
Mm.
But what the bottom line, the common denominator is they go hard into a persona and it
Embodies them.
induces emotion.
Mm.
Whatever it is, it has an impact. It's imagery is impactful. It's not subtle. That's what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
Like you can't do 50,000 people in the stadium by being subtle. It's like you just ain't gonna do it.
You have to have some polarity.
Yeah.
And that polarity is, you know, the group sum of that polarity is that bass that decides to come out to your show.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a really interesting point that you just mentioned there, because you know, the more intentional you are on what brand of music that you're looking to put out there and creating a community around, it's like, quite honestly, what we're doing with United Kins, you know, because we're trying to pull off this feat of polarizing folks across a realm, and not just on a visual aesthetic, or not just on, you can pick up different types of communities, but you have this common fabric, and it's that frequency that we get folks on. And let's say that they all like this certain range of music. They all like this certain range of frequency. And that's how we're bringing folks together. I'm okay with that. But anyway.
I completely agree. Now I have a lesson that I'm gonna have to go to.
Okay.
So with all that being said, I think that sort of idea is gonna be a good rounding off point. And basically, to kind of circle back to the beginning, the frequency of life is what we're working towards and helping to express. And the goal is, I guess, to find it yourself for what frequency works for you. And you're going to know that for sure. You're going to know what frequency is working for you. And if you don't know, then you just need to pay attention a little bit more. But maybe Remy, Duke, what are some parting words for what's going on, and also anything that that we should share?
Absolutely. So first, you know, we have GLOPElife, you know, album that's gonna be, you know, telling this story of globally dopeness that's cutting across multiple genres that we've kind of talked about today. And then, you know, we're just gonna continue to, you know, be at shows regionally, nationally, internationally, as we continue to roll out this project and follow on projects. And once again, you go out to unitedkins.com to, you know, find out more, find out what's next. And on all streaming platforms, United Kins, you can follow us at the United Kins on Instagram and connect with us, and appreciate this.
Absolutely. We appreciate you doing it. United Kins, all the streaming platforms, at the United Kins on Instagram, unitedkins.com. We're going to link these things in the description. Check it out. Stay up to date. Make sure to follow it. Follow Houston Ensemble on Instagram. Subscribe. Like the video. Share it on YouTube. Share it everywhere. Thank you for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Peace.